everyone, Clayton Smith here. I know it's been a while since I've done a video, but I wanted to wait for something that I think will be of interest to a lot of people. And that something is SASE. Yeah, that's right. SASE, S-A-S-E, or Secure Access Services Edge. It's a great name, right? This is a term coined by Gartner to describe the convergence of WAN and security delivered directly to the source of the connection. It's perfectly suited for today's work from anywhere environment. We have to provide security to the user, whether they're at home, a branch location, an HQ, a Starbucks, you name it, whatever. So Cisco's put a lot of work into creating this SASE offering that is easy to configure and easy to use. So today I wanted to bring together a couple of my friends and colleagues, show how easy it is to build out Sd-Wan with Meraki, and then secure those connections utilizing Cisco Umbrella. So Jeffrey and Lundy, welcome. Jeffrey's a Meraki engineer, and Lundy is a cloud security engineer, both with Cisco, who I'm very proud to work with. And Jeffrey, why don't we kind of kick it over to you and start with you so you can show us how do you deploy SD-WAN utilizing Meraki?
Awesome, Clayton. Thank you for the invite today. And I'm glad you asked, because one of the cool things is that there's many MXs and C3s out there already. And it's very easy to already integrate and take you on this journey for SASE. So let's get started. So we're all used to how the MX already shows you that it's cloud managed, how it's everything's active, lots of data there at your fingertips. And because we do play in an SD-WAN world, we typically see 2 WANs available for each of your MXs, especially if this is a branch. Now, if this is a branch of 1, like a teleworker, you would only see 1. But regardless, this allows you to connect into your SD-WAN fabric. And just remember, not all WANs are created equal. Here we clearly see 2 different ISPs provide a very different type of experience for me. So hence why SD-WAN is very important. So keep that in mind, and we'll come back to that in a second. So this device is online. I am connected. I do have a live laptop behind it. We go take a quick look on how we set up this SD-WAN fabric. It's very easy. We just tell it we want to participate, where do our data centers exist, and which VLANs do we want to send down this tunnel. Now, keep in mind, this gives us access to our SD-WAN fabric, but at the same time, because we are talking about SASE, we are creating an IPsec tunnel on these same VLANs that are participating in the SD-WAN. We're sending them down an IPsec tunnel, which is what we've configured right here. Keep in mind this name, because Lundy will walk us through what this looks like on the other side. So we just randomly chose IPsec as an identity. We are connecting to an Umbrella data center, and we're sending all other traffic, meaning whatever's not part of the SD-WAN fabric, we're going to send it out to Umbrella to be used for a little bit of extra protection as we hit the internet. If you wanted to see how this is all laid up once we have it configured, is it up, is it not? So we do have connections to both of our data centers, and we have a connection to our IPsec instance running in Umbrella. Let me show you how real this is. Am I connecting to the Umbrella data center for internet bound stuff? The answer is yes, and this is proof of it. This WebEx, this recording that we're doing right now, is going through an Umbrella data center. This is how I'm exiting the world. This is how the world sees me if it's a destination not part of my SD-WAN fabric.
You know, one question I had for you is, obviously, like you started out with, there's MXs that are deployed really all across the globe at this point. Meraki's been incredibly successful with that. I mean, in your experience, you've seen some of the other SD-WAN solutions that are out there. How does this compare from an ease of deployment standpoint? Is there, I mean, have you shown us basically the extent of the configuration?
I've actually shown you how easy it is. All I have to do is 2 clicks, which is the 2 menus that we saw, and that was it. Beauty of this cloud managed platform is that the cloud is kind of your broker. He helps you figure out how to stitch all those parts together automatically. So that way, if you're in a work from home situation, you're in a new branch that you need rapid deployment because we're all going back to work, you really need to stand things up really quickly, painlessly, and send low-level text or smart hands out there. You can do it, and you can pre-configure it and just send a box to the site so that you don't have to be there.
And that intra-office traffic is being fully encrypted. It's protected on the internet. We shouldn't have to worry about that, right?
Correct. And that's where things like we've been running there, like Snort, AMP, even DNS security from Umbrella can be integrated to control all that inner SD-WAN fabric traffic. But if it's not in a part of the SD-WAN fabric, that's what we have Umbrella for.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeffrey. Lund, let's talk a little bit about how we secure this with Umbrella.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. And those are some great questions. So really here, the Umbrella dashboard, it's going to look very similar to maybe what everyone is used to. But the only difference, as we move into SASE, we've added a couple additional tabs, specifically talking about the SD-WAN tunnel that we created with the IPsec tunnel. It's as easy as just going through, creating that tunnel name. You can choose your device and then going through and configuring those items. What we can then later on, though, is that we can notice that that IPsec tunnel that we created on the Meraki side is now established. So now let's look into the policies. I'm going to first touch on the DNS policies, is because everything, regardless of whether it be going through SD-WAN or if we're just looking at the full proxy, is always going to first go through DNS. If we can block it on the DNS layer, why not, right? That saves you guys a little bit more bandwidth, performance, right? Everyone wants faster speeds and connectivity. So configuration of the DNS policy is very simple. We look at first the security settings, right? So obviously the bad items like the malware, phishing, command and control callbacks, we do want to block against all of these items because anyone that hits these particular types of categorization, they're probably not up to any good. The next thing that you can also look at is the content settings, right? We have about 98 different content categorizations, so you can pick and choose what your user should have access to. If not, we do also have a couple pre-canned filters of low, medium, high. If you don't, if you kind of want to just set it and forget it type of thing. Next, we also have our application settings. Very similar to content settings, you can kind of pick and choose what kind of applications that your user should be allowed to go to while they're on your organization. In this case, we're blocking a couple of different anonymizers, right? So these are your VPN solutions. But again, we do have a wide array of different types of applications that you can also block against. The other thing that I'll point out is, what happens if I want to block all of social networking but allow only certain domains through? This is where we do have our destination list. And then let's say if a user actually goes to one of those block pages that they're not supposed to go to, you can actually customize that appearance. Now, specifically talking about the IPsec tunnels, right, with SASE, we can actually take this a step further and with our cloud delivered firewall, be able to block layer 3, layer 4, and layer 7 capabilities here. So with the layer 7 capabilities, right, we're actually being able to block specific applications that may be going through the tunnel. So in this case, you can choose specific apps. You can say any apps, but this is also going to have the same categorizations that we have on the DNS side of it. So if I wanted to block the Facebook app, I could. In this case, we are blocking the ad publishing app. You can also block, again, layer 3, layer 4, so ports and protocols. You can choose specific tunnels. So in this case, we are only testing out just that one tunnel, but if you did have multiple tunnels, you can dictate, which tunnel that you want this particular policy to apply to. We do also have our rule schedule, so you can also determine, when do you want this rule to be active? Maybe you only want it active during the workday, and then, after hours, people are allowed to go to those different types of applications. And then obviously choosing the rule action and then logging all of those events. That way we can see them within reporting.
If they have something like a SIM, is there a way for us to get those same logs out of?
We can actually pull all of our logs into either a log management or if you have a theme, pretty much as long as they can read our gzip file, which to be honest, there's many of them out there, and I haven't really ran across one that it can't. We do generate reports as well.
Wonderful.
So then kind of looking at the web policies. So this is really after it passes through DNS, after it passes through your firewall, right? It then actually hits our web policy if it's a port 80 and 443 request. This is where it looks very similar to how we configure the DNS policies. However, a couple different items that you've noticed that's slightly different. We do now have tenant controls. So if I wanted to only allow my corporate tenant through and block personal access, this is where tenant control is going to give you that type of capabilities. Right now, we do only have Office 365, G Suite, and Slack, but we are hoping to be able to add other applications later in the future to also have this tenant control.
So let me make sure I understand what that means, because I think that that's a really important point. That means if I have my own personal OneDrive, you can enforce that I can only go to the OneDrive that's the corporate when I'm actually running through Umbrella. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep. So that means, again, like if you only have your own OneDrive or Gmail, right? And I want you to stay focused at the job at hand, right? I can block all personal usages of those particular applications, but then only allow if you're trying to, access the corporate domains, then you would be allowed through. So it's not outright blocking access to that domain. It's blocking how are you logging in, which domain that you're logging in as.
I think you may have seen both Jeffrey and I smirk when you said stay focused. I don't think there's any matter of technology that can force the two of us to make sure that we stay focused, but I appreciate that it's there. And I really look at it, as a security guy, I really look at it from a data exfiltration standpoint. I think that there are times when people may not necessarily intend to take data where it's not supposed to be, but maybe if they have access to a personal drive or something, maybe to throw a file there so it's more convenient when they get home to get it. That could be putting the corporation at risk. So I think that's a really good feature to point out that we can enforce those tendencies.
The other thing that we can also point out, again, the application control, but now I can do more than just block or allow. I can block uploads versus downloads. I can block posts or shares. So for example, right, let's say obviously everyone's favorite Facebook, right? Instead of just me outright blocking you to have access to Facebook, I'm just going to block posts and shares. So maybe if you can't, accidentally put someone's credit card information or something, just again, time spenders, right? So you can actually kind of dictate, a little bit more access control based off of those particular applications. So again, different from the DNS section is because now we're seeing that full URL. We can actually go a little bit further into the controls of what you can do while you're on those pages. Last thing that I'll also point out is our file type controls. So again, you can block different file types. So if I really wanted to make Jeffrey's day to be really terrible, I could block all audio files, right? So that means, if he downloads any music, if he listens to anything from an MP3, anything of that nature, then he's not going to be able to access those particular files. So again, you can actually kind of pick and choose the different ones that you want to be able to block against for these different types of file types controls. This would be across the board. This is regardless of whatever page that you're going to. As long as, if it's a audio file, media file, anything of that nature, we are going to go ahead and block those particular requests. We are doing the SSL decryption here. And, obviously everything is going through that tunnel. So as long as it's going through that tunnel, port 8443 requests, it will also then hit the web policy. So with that, let's kind of take a look into the reporting of how exactly that looks, right? So we talked about creating those policies. I'm now blocking Jeffrey from some of these different items. What does that actually look like? The different types of reports that we can actually do, we do have a couple of them here, but I would say this activity search report is going to be the best one that we have because it shows you everything, not just being blocked, but as well as being allowed through. So it gives you a fully holistic view of what is going on. We can even filter based off of particular users.
We're clearly talking about Sd-Wan within the SASE context. However, there's going to be some times where maybe it's such a small location, it doesn't need to be part of the corporate Sd-Wan. Maybe you're just deploying a Meraki AP out there. Are there some security controls that we have and some umbrella integrations within just the APs?
Actually, we do. We have strictly the DNS security integration, and that's a Cisco offering that we have internally as well. That all that you get for your home is an MVO, which stands for Meraki Virtual Office. So you get an access point, you plug it in, you're essentially sitting in your corporate office, but it's still being protected via DNS security, which with some of the controls that Lundy just showed us.
The other thing I'll kind of add on with the AP configuration, right? This also gives you the flexibility to create different policies based off of per SSID. If you have a corporate network, you have a guest network, obviously you probably don't want them to have the same type of policy set, right? So that actually, with that API integration that we have with Meraki on the DNS side, gives you that flexibility to have different policies.
Yeah, and actually, I actually showed that on a previous video about, I guess it was about a year ago, actually showing how I do that at my home guest network here. It's a different policy setup. So I'll kind of end with this last question, Lundy. Obviously, we were talking about Umbrella as it relates to SASE and SD-WAN, but clearly there's a lot of remote users that won't be at a branch location. They won't be behind an MX. Maybe they're not behind, Meraki AP. How do we protect those users as they roam about from coffee shop to home office to corporate? How do we protect those?
Yeah, so, just kind of also backing up, today we really only focus on one portion of how we can deploy our SASE solution. But we do, obviously, Umbrella as a whole solution has way more that we can offer, right? Protecting off network users, we have a client that we can push out, and that actually also extends not just to the DNS layer protection, but we can also utilize that to act as our full proxy.
That's wonderful. Well, Jeffrey, Lundy, thank you guys so much. I have the pleasure of working with you guys pretty often. So thank you for sharing a little bit of your time. And to those of you that are watching this video right now, first of all, thank you very much. And we hope we provided you some information that's interesting. If you have any more questions, though, feel free to follow up with us. I'll post our contact information within the notes here. And we just appreciate your time. So everyone, thank you so much. Take care.
Bye, guys.